On everyone, Josh Des Williams here. I recently went and saw the movie Us. It's the new Jordan Peele film that everyone, I'm sure, has heard about at this point. I've now seen the movie twice, and so I'm ready to go ahead and record a podcast just basically to illustrate my initial thoughts about the movie from the first watch and sort of where I've come to now for the second watch. Now, those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, there will be full spoilers ahead, so I don't recommend that you listen to this particular podcast through and through yet, but I do highly recommend that you go and see the movie because I really did enjoy it. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead now. You guys have been warned. It's full spoilers ahead. Please, at the end of the podcast, go ahead and feel free to leave any likes, subscribes, or shares. And I really appreciate some commentary because I believe this is a movie that we're going to be discussing and dissecting for years to come. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. So let's go ahead and go with the synopsis for Us. The first thing I noticed, for some of you guys, I'm sure you may or may not remember, at the beginning when they showed the Monkey Paw Productions logo, I thought that was pretty much an indicator of what I was getting ready to get into. I did not look at any spoilers before I saw the movie. I wanted to go in just with a fresh mind because, nowadays it's my personal opinion that trailers, they give away too much. So, to me, that was the better route. But anyway, moving along. So we start off with a TV commercial from an old 1986 TV commercial for Hands Across America. Now, I personally didn't even know what Hands Across America was, but after looking it up, essentially what it is, or what it was, according to Wikipedia, was a benefit event and publicity campaign staged on Sunday, May 25th, 1986, in which approximately 6.5 million people held hands in a human chain for about 15 minutes along a path along the contiguous United States. Many participants donated $10 to reserve their place in line, and then the proceeds were supposed to be donated to local charities to fight hunger and homelessness. So basically, it's a long-ass chain full of human hands, ideally that would connect across the entire country. Everyone pays their $10. The money goes to fight poverty, and it'd be a gigantic display of human social interaction. I think that's what they were getting at with that. Apparently, they only got but so much participation. I think according to the article here, it raised about $34 million. And according to the New York Times, only about $15 million was distributed after deducting operating costs. So, based on what I'm reading here, and this is just the first time I'm looking at the article, they essentially, it doesn't say they broke even, but I don't think that they were able to achieve quite the effect that they wanted. But nevertheless, an excellent display of, and an excellent idea. And if they ever try that again, I'd certainly try it out just to see what would happen. But anyway, so it's a Hands Across America commercial. After the commercial goes off, then I believe, are taken directly to a carnival scene. Now, the carnival scene is interesting. You're going to see that pop up throughout the movie. And we see our young protagonist, Adelaide, is a young girl with her parents, and her dad, he's doing what all cool dads do, I guess, and trying to win her a prize. He ends up winning her a t-shirt, which she grabs pretty, somewhat disrespectfully. But she grabs it, puts it on, and then, when they go to, this was the second ride that Dad was participating for her, but nonetheless, the mom basically has the daughter wait with her dad while she goes to use the bathroom, because Adelaide did not want to use the bathroom. And then while the dad was playing the game, she did what all young children do in these horror films. It's not really a horror film, but she walked away against her parents' wishes. So at this point in time, it's night, and she just walks to the beach for no apparent reason. And then we see a wide shot of an incoming storm. So then what happens is she turns around and then we see a a lit fun house, a house of mirrors, the only building on that beach itself that's lit. Warning right there. Why would you go in there? But okay. She decides to walk into there. No big deal, I suppose. She goes in. It's a creepy fun house, as I thought it'd be when I initially saw it. And then eventually, as she did what we all knew she was going to do, she got lost. Okay. So at this point now, she's starting to get a little worried. And then the power goes out, presumably due to the storm outside. And then that's when things start to pick up a little bit. So she wanders around for a little bit until she turns around facing the camera, and then we see a little girl that looks to be exactly like her, at least from the back of her head, facing outwards into a black sort of abyss. So now, full creep mode. We don't know what's going on. And then essentially the little girl turns around. This is all being shown from Adelaide's perspective, so we don't actually see the girl turn around. And then Adelaide's eyes turn wide, and then we cut. Then we cut to the rabbits. So there's basically the opening titles. You just see a rabbit eye, which, fun fact, I was reading up on some of this. I guess Jordan Peele is afraid of rabbits. According to him, he's basically of the mind that if you ever just look at a rabbit's eyes, you'll realize that there's really nothing going on in there. No empathy. And I believe the quote was, if you put a rabbit's brain into a human body, you essentially have a Michael Myers effect. Basically a sociopath. No empathy whatsoever. And that's why he's afraid of rabbits. Anyway, moving along. We see a big wide shot full of rabbits in cages. If you're an audience member, you're just like, what the hell is happening? But that's fair. And then once that happens, it looks like there are a bunch of rabbits in a classroom, and then it cuts to the present day. Alright. Now we see the family. We see presumably a grown-up. We do see a grown-up Adelaide now, played by Lupita Nyong'o. And then her former Black Panther co-star Winston Duke, if you guys might remember, he played M'Baku in the movie, the head of the Chapuri clan. So pretty cool to see them starring in a movie together so soon after Black Panther. I'm here for that whole experience. Shout out to Black Panther. And so we got Adelaide. We've got Winston Duke. He plays Gabe, her husband. And then we have their two children in the back. We've got Jason, the younger brother. And then we got the older sister. I'm trying to remember her name. I've seen the movie twice, and for some reason I can't remember it. But whatever. I'll find that in a second. So they're sleeping in the car. They arrive at their summer beach home that they come to every year. And they go inside. Get some random character development on the kids and stuff. And then we immediately see how the family dynamic ensues. Adelaide is sort of, a normal suburban mother. She's, she's content to let Gabe take control of things for the most part. But you never get the sense that she's taking a back seat on the parent department. She's just a lot more quieter and not nearly as goofy as Gabe. And that's okay. He reminds me of like a Chevy Chase, type of character from those old movies that, again, are just escaping me right now. Anyway, so they're in the house. They're we're getting all the character development. So we realize immediately that Gabe is the dadly goofball, very Chevy Chase. Adelaide is the quiet mother who's very much in charge. Let's be honest, but she's content to let Gabe sort of do his patriarchal duties. So the family goes inside, and we sort of start to get an idea of how their dynamic goes. So they all sit down for lunch, and then we come to find out that the daughter, she's very much a millennial, on her phone all the time, but apparently she used to run track in school. Jason is a little bit more quiet and reserved. They make numerous references to him as being weird in the movie. And, Adelaide is just content to be just just a suburban mother who's in charge of and has no problem raising her kids, but she clearly was affected by this event back then, and it's sort of manifested in her personality. Then we see Gabe and his boat that he rented. More on that later. And then they go ahead and sort of back inside, and then they talk about potentially going to the beach. And then they talk about potentially going to the beach. Now, at this point now, we start to realize that Adelaide has some serious repercussions about going to the beach, because it's apparently the exact same beach that the incident that happened when she was a little girl occurred at. The plot thickens. Okay, so now again, I'm doing this entirely from my memory, guys, so just keep in mind that I may or may not have some of these events proper or not. So again, please feel free to correct me on some of these things in the comments, and then I'll address from there. But I just think it's important to just do this particular podcast from the moviegoer's perspective. I saw the movie, I want to talk about it. So my thoughts, I've done some research on it, but very little, not enough to sort of inform you guys on the ins and outs of what's true or what's not true. It's just very much about how I felt about it, what I would have done about certain things, that kind of thing. We can all relate to that. But okay, so during the conversation, Adelaide informs Gabe that she doesn't like that beach. She doesn't really want to go to that beach. She prefers to stay at home. Through a lot of poking and prodding, Gabe convinces her to allow the beach day on the condition that they leave before dark. Seems like a fair trade. Okay. They drive to the beach the next day. The drive scene is very cool, very funny. A lot of minor things happen, including a really great reference to a classic song, "I Got Five On." I don't know if you guys remember that song. Some of the particularly younger ones may or may not remember it, but really good use of music in this entire movie. I really applaud that by Jordan and the team. But anyway, so they go to the beach. They meet up with Josh and Vicky, another family that they're good friends with. All right, so while they're at the beach, we get our first clue about sort of what's going on with Adelaide. Which, by the way, let me back up a little bit. During the family drive, which again was really hilarious, pretty fun. You guys want to take a look at that? We had a couple of flashbacks. So what we learned was after the incident, Adelaide basically lost her ability to speak. She became a mute of sorts. They took her to the doctor. They couldn't figure out what's going on. They just encouraged her to do things like dancing and whatever form of art that she could use to express and potentially maybe even explain what happened to her that night. So that's kind of how we got here with her character. She seems to be functioning well, but at the same time, she's clearly forever changed from this event. So then Jason wanders off, and then he goes to the bathroom. Goes to the porta potty, comes out, and by the way, very close to the old funhouse, I should add. But anyway, he walks out and sees a man wearing a green jumpsuit or jacket of some sort, holding his hands out almost like a scarecrow. He's got some blood dripping from his fingers. But you know what Jason says? That Adelaide, she was a kid. He doesn't walk all up on that. He just sort of observes from a distance and then keeps it moving. Adelaide finds him, warns him not to do that anymore because clearly she's the freak out type, and she can't have that. And then we move on to the next scene. They decide to pack it up, go back to the house, call it a night. Alright. So clearly this is not a great trip so far for the Wilson family, but that's okay. So clearly this trip has not gotten up to a good start so far for the family, but they're trying to put it behind them. Anyways, they retire back to the cabin or lake house or whatever you want to call it, and at that point, we have Adelaide and Gabe have a discussion where she informs Gabe of what happened to her as a kid. She explains that she went in there, went to that fun house, she saw a little girl that looked exactly like her, and then when the girl turned around, she obviously saw that the girl looked exactly like her. She turned around and ran for dear life. She shouldn't have been in there in the first place, but whatever. And that's why she doesn't want to come back to this beach, and she feels as if there's a lot of random coincidences happening, and that it must have something to do with the little girl. And she has of the mind that this little girl is trying to get back to her, trying to get back at her somehow. She doesn't really know. But all she knows is she feels something is wrong. Next, the power goes out, and we sort of see the family scrambling, and that's when Jason comes to inform his parents that there is a family outside. They go and say, "What are you talking about?" They go and look out there, and sure enough, there is a family outside standing hand in hand, side by side. More on that later. To keep it short and concise, they call the police. Police don't come for some reason, or they say they're, I think it was 14 or 17 minutes away. And that's when Gabe decides to take matters into his own hands. He goes outside, confronts them, they don't move, they don't leave the property, comes back inside, grabs a bat, warns them again, quite hilariously. And that's when they start what can only be described as scuttling towards him. So he runs back in the house, as he damn sure should have in the first place. Or should have stayed in the house, I should say. The doppelgangers arrive in the house. Gabe becomes severely injured because while trying to hold the door closed, he accidentally allows the bat to be taken and grabbed by his doppelganger, Abraham, who then uses the bat to hit him in the knee. Essentially, not handicapping Gabe, but, good plot device to severely injure him so that, how these horror movies are. We gotta handicap the main character so that they can't get away very fast. Doppelgangers arrive, corner them all inside the house, and that's when Red, Lupita Nyong'o's doppelganger, explains her story. Red then explains her story, who, by the way, is the only one of the doppelgangers capable of speech. She essentially explains to us, as the viewers, and through Adelaide, that essentially she is a shadow. They are all shadows of the main characters. And that essentially whatever happens to the shadow, or what happens to the main character, also happens to the shadow. For instance, when Adelaide and Gabe got together, that's when Abraham showed up in Red's life, vice versa. So when Adelaide married Gabe, that's when Abraham showed up in Red's life. When Gabe and Adelaide had their firstborn daughter, that was okay. But what happened with Red was that she birthed a monster. The little girl's character, her doppelganger is always smiling with a really super creepy smile and never stops doing that. And she's always laughing. And it's explained, I gave birth to a monster. Then we get to Jason. She said, you gave birth to Jason. You had to do a C-section, remember that? Yeah, I remember that. Because, that was all good for you. You probably had all that anesthesia and all that stuff. Yeah, I did that myself. So we clearly see that Red is a severely pained individual. She is going through an insurmountable amount of trauma. And she's pretty pissed off about this. Makes sense to me. So they all essentially have to face off against their doppelgangers in a pretty crazy and entertaining / thrilling / scary / scene. Gabe manages to kill Abraham on the boat. Good for you, Gabe. Jason manages to trap Pluto, his alter ego, inside the closet that he was trapped in earlier in the movie, and I didn't mention that, but I'll get to that in a few. And Zora, the daughter, she has not dealt with her. She ran away and is basically leading her doppelganger on a merry chase, or a chase. They get away, and then they run to Vicky and Josh's house, where we cut to seeing Vicky and Josh's home being invaded by their doppelgangers. They're all brutally murdered during another very entertaining / creepy / whatever words you want to put in there scene. It's a lot, guys. It's a lot. All right. After the white people of the movie are brutally murdered, that's when our family shows up. They show up. Sorry guys, it's just, I'm thinking about this movie and I've seen it twice now, but I'm telling you, I could have taken a shower after that second movie. That's just how locked in I was. It's a lot. Alright, go see the movie. So the family arrives, unbeknownst to them, Vicky, Jason, and the twins, by the way, have all been brutally murdered. They knock on the door. They see Josh The patriarch of the other family, he answers the door, but it's his doppelganger, of course, right? So Adelaide realizes what's going on, and then the entire doppelganger white family decides to grab Adelaide and bring her into the house. Very scary part as well. Now we've got Gabe attempting to lure Josh out onto the boat. He's really attached to this boat in this movie. Again, good for him. Good for him. He paid good money for that. Or some money for that. And, we basically left with the two kids being in charge because the two parents are nowhere to be found anymore. This is a really cool part of the movie. I'd say my second favorite part because now it's their chance to shine. So far, Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke have been doing all the heavy lifting. It's time for the little kids to take center stage. The older sister and the younger brother, which reminded me of my sister and my brother. I feel like they would have handled themselves accordingly in this scene if this was real life. But essentially, Zora, the big sister, Jason, the younger brother, they both pick up weapons. And they go and they attempt to look for their mother, as they should. They find her. They're able to kill the doppelganger twins and the doppelganger Vicky. And Gabe is successful in being able to kill the doppelganger Josh. So they're doing a good job, the family here. I gotta say, it's not the typical horror movie where you just, everyone's going out, dropping out like flies. They're making the dumbest decisions ever. They're not running when they're not supposed to. This is not like that, okay? And I really appreciate that because, listen, we can't all say what we would do when faced with our mortality. But I'd like to think that there's just certain things that I see that happen in horror movies that I just wouldn't do. Like, we're gonna run away from the killer in the woods, right? I'm not gonna trip. Or at least I'm gonna do my best not to trip. And if I do trip, you better believe that I'm getting my ass up as fast as possible. Because I just don't feel like my story is gonna end this way. I'm not getting chopped up in the woods because I fell running away from the killer. No way. That's just not. Well, I digress. Point is, they're able to kill off the entire doppelganger white family. Okay? And that's when they have to start making some decisions because clearly this has been a really, really long night. Jason has the bright idea to ask, well, how many more twins are there going to be? So that's when they turn on the TV and they realize, oh wow, this isn't a local issue. It's happening all over the country. Very scary. Not only are people being stabbed, by the way, everyone's wearing red jumpsuits with gold scissors. Sorry, I had to remember the color for a second. Gold scissors. Each and every one of these doppelgangers. Where they got the money and the planning for this, I don't know. Sometimes you just got to suspend your disbelief for movie purposes because there's clearly a larger story being told here. Okay, so a bunch of people in red jumpsuits are stabbing people, caught on camera. No one even knows that these are all lookalikes yet. But what they're doing is they're grabbing hands in unison. So at this point now, after we've seen the beginning commercial, the Hands Across America commercial, we start to realize that, wow, they're recreating this? Very interesting. So then we cut back to the family. They decide, you know what? We got to get out of here. Gabe disagrees. He thinks they should stay there. At that point, I got to say, I kind of agreed with Gabe because, I've seen a lot of zombie movies. I just feel like, look, we've got all the resources we've got here. The world's ending. We're clearly in an apocalypse type of situation here. We got to shack up. Now, I get Adelaide's thinking too. We go to Mexico. We get out of here. I really do. But at the same time, I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments what you would do. What are the horror movie rules? What are the zombie movie rules? It's not a zombie movie, but you know what I mean? The apocalyptic kind of rules. Everyone's got different opinions, but there should be some sort of generalized. We can come to a generalized understanding about what it is we're supposed to do in the event that the world decides that it's just going to end. But, okay. So, they decide to take the family car, Josh and Vicky's car, of course, and that's when Zora decides, hey, listen, I'm driving because mom's handcuffed, dad's leg's busted, I gotta take the reins here. They get in the car. They're confronted by Zora's doppelganger, who jumps on top of the car. Zora drives and is essentially able to knock her off of the vehicle by braking really hard. And she brakes so hard, in fact, that her doppelganger flies off into a tree and gets cut in half. This part was interesting because what happens now is Adelaide's character goes off into the woods. I mean, at this point, she's a full-blown badass. The scene before, she killed off the other twin because Zora accidentally did not kill her. Not her fault. She knocked her off the top of off the second floor. The twin was just sitting there for, I don't know, seemingly an hour or two. And she was just chilling. Greatest game of playing dead, I guess, that I've seen in a while. So yeah, this scene is interesting because as Zora's doppelganger's character is dying, we just see Adelaide sort of, soothe her to death, or whatever, however you guys want to explain that. But I just thought that was interesting. I guess my initial thought was, hey, even if you are a murdering bastard, you are still a genetically identical copy of my actual daughter, and I don't know how comfortable I am watching you die. That's what I got the first time. I don't know what you guys know. This movie definitely needs to be watched twice, by the way, guys. It's just, you gotta watch it the first time, then you gotta watch it again just to watch it properly. It's not even, and by the way, like, there's a lot of people claiming that the movie's a horror movie. I would not say that. I would say that this movie is more like a horror thriller with more of an emphasis on thriller. For me, I call it like a 2-hour-long Twilight Zone episode, but from a black perspective, if that makes any sense. That's how I perceive it anyway. Afterwards, we get back in Adelaide gets back in the car. They drive throughout the night. They go back to the Santa Cruz boardwalk, where they see young Pluto, Jason's doppelganger, underneath the car, or right in front of the car. At this point, Adelaide is just full-blown badass mode again, like I said. So she's just like, give me the hot poker. I'm going to take care of this right now, She goes outside. She confronts the little boy. The little boy, sort of makes eye contact with Jason, who's still in the car looking out here. And then that's when he pulls out a match. Jason quickly deduces that it's a trap of some sort. He makes everyone get out of the car. We then cut to showing a trail of oil or some sort that goes from underneath the car to the burning family car right behind Pluto. Very smart, very genius. But the kid's good with fire. That's his thing, right? So Jason comes out, and Adelaide is just begging the kid not to do it because as soon as he lights that thing on fire, that whole family's going up in flames. Jason realized earlier in the movie when he was in the closet with Pluto, quote unquote, playing with him, that Pluto mimics his every movement when Jason wills it. So Jason, knowing this, makes a really clutch save here and basically starts walking backwards, which causes Pluto to start doing the exact same thing. He walks all the way back into the burning car, and then that's how we get rid of Pluto. While this is happening, unfortunately, that's when Red shows up out of the blue. They did a really good job making the characters appear out of nowhere, but making it seem almost like very, very believable. Like they're not there the scene before that. They cut to them being there and arriving somehow, but or even when, Zora's character's doppelganger was running away and then everything is fine behind her and then all of a sudden we just see a quick little shadow running behind. Like they did a good job with that sort of thing. Just wanted to mention that. But yeah, so Red, in the distraction, decides to grab Jason and then run away. Once they realize that Jason's gone, Adelaide runs back to where the only place that she thinks it makes any sense, which at this point we all know where she's got to go. You got to go to the funhouse. That's where I'm at. That's where the showdown is at, right? So she goes down there, and then we really see how deep and long these tunnels go, And so, she goes all the way down, and then we start to really see. We see a bunch of rabbits everywhere. First of all, and we see just, what the underground really looks like. It looks like a set of classrooms. It looks like a mental facility to me. It's weird looking. I don't understand. There's a lot I don't understand. But, the quick synopsis, according to Red, is that they call themselves the Tethered. Okay? That's what these shadows are, the Tethered. And that they were a former government experiment. The idea was to be able to control the populace. Now, I really want you guys to let me know what's going on with that, particularly in the comments. But the way I perceived it is like this. Let's say, you're some sort of activist or just troublemaker in general, or you start causing problems. I think the idea that the government had was that, okay, you know what, you don't like what we're doing, or you got a problem with what's happening here, or you're going to embarrass us, or whatever have you. That's okay. We'll just replace you with a doppelganger or something that we can control, and no one will ever be the wiser. So I think they wanted to do it almost like as needed or as necessary thing. Now, according to Adelaide, they were able to find out how to clone every American in the country. What they didn't understand is the implications of what they did. You can clone the body in this mythology, but you can't clone the soul. So that's why they're all connected, right? Now, one of the questions that I had at the beginning, throughout the entire movie, the first time, because I just didn't realize what Red said, was that, my first thing was like, okay, how is it possible that I can see how, Gabe and Adelaide have clones? Okay, but how do Jason and Zora have clones if the government experiment was abandoned years and years ago? But after seeing it a second time, this really was my bad. It's just sometimes when you're watching these movies, there's so many jumps and scares and so on and so forth that you kind of miss out on some important information. Again, they're exactly what she said they were. They're attached. Everything that they do, they have to mimic. So if Adelaide's going to have a baby, then I'm going to have a baby. And that's how, all of these Tethered have multiplied over the years. I know I mentioned that earlier in the video, but I just wanted to stress that. Like the first time, I just, for some reason, there was so much happening and so much information being disseminated that I really sort of didn't understand how it was possible to have that many clones living underground for actually not seemingly. I don't know how long. I just know that Adelaide herself has been down there for 33 years apparently. And who knows how long the experiment was going on before that. But yeah, so, essentially we close with a final showdown of her explaining, that what ended up happening was after that encounter, Red never forgot about Adelaide. And what ended up happening was over the years, as, Adelaide began to do things like dancing and whatever have you, somehow, some way, the Tethered realized that Red was different. They essentially appointed her up to be their savior of sorts. She was extremely inspired by a t-shirt, Hands Across the America t-shirt that she was wearing that night. And that's when she came up with the idea that this is how she was going to get her revenge. She was going to send all the Tethered topside, and she was going to have them all join hands across the country. And I'm assuming the final plan is to say, hey, listen, look how we can become one. This is what we did. We did it better than you ever could have. But not only that, but we are still going to kill you all and take your place. The quote-unquote untethering, guys. All right. They have their final showdown. They talk about all this stuff. And that's when my favorite scene in the movie comes. Adelaide versus Red. Red grew up. Well, in this movie, all of the clones or the twins or the Tethered or whatever word you want to use, for some reason they are really good at whatever the original characters were only but so good at. So when I mentioned earlier that Zora, the daughter, when she gave up on track and field, okay, whatever, she's got other things to do in life, but her doppelganger is an extremely good runner. She's fast, she's got great endurance, or whatever have you. Now, however that happened, for some reason, that's just how this movie is telling its story. So for Red, she is an extremely good dancer. So all her fighting movements and all her movements in general are very ballet-like. Now, I read a comment the other day saying like, the ballet was really badly done. Whatever. I'm not a ballet expert. I'm not trying to become a ballet expert. It looked freaking cool on camera. Everyone relax. Okay? But they had the one-on-one showdown. Red stabs her many different times, And then she does what I can only describe as risking it all by raising the scissors above her head in a attempt to deliver the coup de grace. Adelaide, who has gotten seasoned with this hot poker at this point, stabs her through the heart, and that's when she has her little ending monologue. So she finds Jason. Jason's a little confused, but she's like, "No, it's me. I'm really your mother, and everything's gonna be fine now," which is the biggest lie in the movie. And they go back topside, and then they leave on the ambulance. Now, the ambulance is the part you got to pay the most attention to, because this is where the movie decides to bring out its twist, the M. Night Shyamalan twist of sorts. Adelaide has one last flashback where we see her as the little girl again, walking through that fun house. Okay? And we realize that the two characters mimic each other, right? They mimic all their actions. So at the beginning of the movie, when you're watching the dad, win her a prize, and then Natalie's walking around, and blah blah blah. All of that was happening for Red at the exact same time. And that's how the two girls met, because their actions are tethered to each other, right? And we get the biggest twist of all. Red was the little girl who was walking. I'm getting chills right now. This thing about it is so weird. Red was the little girl who was walking around the whole time in the beginning of the movie. Adelaide's character was the doppelganger the whole time. She chokes Red. Red falls unconscious. She drags her down into the sewers and handcuffs her to the bed, steals the shirt so that she can seamlessly fill in her place in her life. Craziness. Wow. And apparently the reason why Adelaide didn't remember any of this was because she repressed that memory. Can you imagine? I mean, you have the wherewithal to essentially complete your master plan. You gotta be 8 years old at the time or some craziness. And then the actions were so traumatic. That night was so traumatic that, you clearly knew what you were doing as soon as you took her place, because you're laughing and smiling all the time. And that's why she was so quiet her whole life, because she didn't know how to speak in the first place. She learned how to speak. That's crazy. Now, I'm not going to say it's never been done before in movies. Maybe some older people who maybe seen some old Twilight Zone episodes maybe might. I remember that. It was Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I can't remember what episode it was, but there was basically the whole thing our worst enemies are ourselves. There are some trodden themes in this movie, but I really loved where Jordan went with this, because there might be some used themes, but I feel like he took the film and told a story that was unique from an African American perspective. Like I said, it feels like a 2-hour-long Twilight Zone episode. It was very ambitious. The movie ends with Adelaide remembering that repressed memory, and then Jason, who's looking at her the whole time while this is happening, starts looking at her very confused, whoa, what's going on with my mother? And then she looks at him, they make eye contact, and then she just gives him a very subtle smile, almost as to say, "Hey man, we still got our bond. I know I know you know something, and you're probably right about it, but let's just keep that between us." So the movie ends with a wide shot showing the California mountainside and a massive human chain happening with helicopter coverage and everything. Very genius. I was with that, by the way, with a great Minnie Riperton sample. You guys gotta check out the soundtrack. It was really cool. Whether it's the I Got Five on it sample, the Fuck the Police song that they used. That was such a cool part. The Minnie Riperton song, that. I think the soundtrack's 30-something minutes long, but worth it for sure for some of the songs that were remixed, I guess you could say, for a horror perspective. I really like that. But okay, so I'm just going to wrap it up with a couple of topics that I wanted to just touch on. These are just, after I just got done with now that I've gotten done with the synopsis of sorts, I know that took forever. I just wanted to, my final thoughts were, first and foremost, I give the movie, right now after seeing it 2 times, so the first time I saw the movie, let me just go ahead and stay there. I gave the movie in my mind about a 9 out of 10, maybe even an 8.5, just because I was so confused, and my fear was that, listen man, you did a great job with Get Out, but this movie, while I enjoyed it a lot, when I got to thinking about it, I was like, man, there's a lot of holes with this movie. But I said to myself, you know what, let me see this movie again, because now that I know the twist, I can watch it properly, knowing what I know now. So seeing it the second time, I'm ready to give it a 9.5 out of 10. I'm not going to, I don't personally believe there is a perfect movie out there. If there would be, I'd say, I got a short list of contenders. Dark Knight, The Matrix. I got a lot of Inception. I got a lot of movies that I really like. But my favorite kinds of movies, generally speaking, are like the sort of mind-bending, sort of thought-provoking movies that come out from very time to time. There's usually only about one movie, if I'm lucky, every year that makes me see it and I'm still thinking about what happened 3, 4, 5 days afterwards. Not a lot of movies do that for me. This for sure is one. It promotes debate. I love that. It is scary, but not in the traditional sense. It's not a horror film, It's got a home invasion slasher type of feel in some scenes, but it's got a much bigger story to tell. That's why I'm comparing it, more to a really bloody Twilight Zone episode. Bold, gritty, very funny, guys. I must say, I like Jordan Peele's style. I mean, his former comedic background, and I also think that his his biracial heritage really helps him when he writes his jokes because I remember getting out of my theater. I saw it at a theater in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Very young, vibrant crowd. I did that on purpose because I really wanted to get a sense of how people were going to feel about this movie. I sat next to a black girl on my left who would not stop coughing, by the way, throughout the whole movie. Like, I might do a podcast one day just on, movie theater stereotypes. Like, there's a stereotype in every person that goes to see a movie. It never fails. But anyways, so there's a black girl to my left, and there was a white girl to my right, a white woman, a Caucasian, you know what I mean? And once that happened, I was really invested in the experience because I was like, okay, this is great. I'm going to get both perspectives from my left to my right. I felt kind of like a creep, I gotta say, because for some reason, having seen the movie already, right, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I want to see, from a white perspective, what her reactions are going to be to all of these different parts, especially like the home invasion part for Vicky and Josh getting killed off. I didn't get that payoff for the most part because she seemed so terrified by everything happening that she was at one point just blatantly covering her eyes. So I didn't get that, but whatever. She seemed like she liked it towards the end. I mean, she was invested just like we all were. I mean, that movie is like a roller coaster, man. The "Fuck the Police" song that came on, and that whole scene where Zora and Jason had to go help their mother, that was such a cool scene to me because, I mean, that's what you do, right? You're a kid, you don't know what the hell is happening, but you say to yourself, look, man, Dad's out there, he's indisposed. Mom's up there, we don't know where the hell she is. What the hell are we going to do? And that's why I like this movie so much because, these movies are being told from a black perspective. Not that the black experience is completely and utterly different from the human experience. It's just nice to see a movie with characters that you can relate to, making decisions that you probably would make too. So I really like that part. The Minnie Riperton song at the end was really great. I did not know, by the way, that Minnie Riperton was Maya Rudolph, the famous actress comedian. Maya Rudolph's mother. That was a really cool fun fact. I did not know that. She died back in 1979 due to cancer, by the way. Really sorry to hear that. I didn't know. Not that she cares or anyone cares. But, you start researching an artist and you say to yourself, okay, well, what are they doing these days? And then you say to yourself, oh, wow. I did not even know that she passed away at the age of 31. But that being said, her work lives on, and that song was such a great sample in the movie. You guys got to check that out. Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke did a really... Oh, let me take that back. Winston Duke did a good job, a very good job. Lupita Nyong'o did an amazing job. all of the main cast played themselves in different roles, and I think they all did a great job. But Lupita really, really, really dug it. I think Jordan Peele was saying she pretty much went full method on this one, full method acting, and it really showed. It's still early for me, so I'm not going to say, "Oh, give her the Oscar right this second." But I got to say, for the dual performance and the amount that she committed and the emotion she was able to convey and pull me right in, I'd say she's at least deserves a nomination, if not an outright win. So we'll see how that goes. The whole rabbit meat thing, that kind of messed with me a little bit because, okay, I get it. Rabbits multiply. I get the idea. And maybe that's also Jordan Peele. Maybe that's just him being like, yeah, let's eat off these rabbits, kill them off, get rid of them all. I don't know. But I got to think that eating raw meat for, 30-something years is going to lead to some sort of sicknesses. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Whatever. And then my last thought about the movie was, despite the fact that the girls were tethered to each other, based on this series of tunnels and the downward escalator, it just really makes it somewhat unbelievable that somehow they were able to meet with each other. Unless Adelaide, who we now know at this point was the doppelganger the whole time, unless Adelaide was able to somehow detach her movements when she felt like it, if she was able to achieve a conscious state enough to do that, then that makes more sense. But that's the only way. So anyways, guys, I'm out of here. Please let me know what you think in the comments section. Please leave a like, subscribe, or share. I really do appreciate it. Mostly, I really want the commentary to be, because if you think I got something wrong or you felt like you disagreed with something that I said, feel free to let me know, and I'll address it wherever I can, and maybe I'll make some more videos in the future. But thanks for listening. This is your host, Josh Des Williams, and see you guys at the next movie.
And they know that. Logo on my flow mat. Courtside Chamberlain throwback match my Rolex. Everywhere I go flex. Valet park on some low shit. Whole lot of smoke in that Rory, that thing potent. Burning rubber. Wearing cameras that was undercovers. Under pressure made statements turned on their brothers. Never judge you but the streets will never love you. I wonder what it come to in your brain for you to run to. One's the haters. Handcuffers and maces. Call us dumb niggas cause our culture is contagious. Third generation South Central gangbangers that live long enough to see it change. Think it's time we make arrangements. Finally wiggle out that maze. Find me out in different places. And the spoke by the door, this the infiltration. Double back dressed in blue laces. Killed Dr. Sebi, he was teaching health. I fuck with Rick Ross cause he teaching wealth. Dropped out of school, I'ma teach myself. Made my first meal on my own, I don't need your help. All black, Tom Ford, it's a special evening. City council meeting, they got hustle speaking. $1 billion project about to crack the cement. So one of our investments has become strategic. Summer 18, man, such a season. About to make my partners look like fucking genius. We was in the Regal, it was me and Steven. We done took a dream and turned it to a scene. Anything I wanted, everything I needed. Gotta pace yourself, it's all about your baby. You can have it all, it's all about your race. I done took my name and carved it in the cement. your gun jammed and they released. Blood on your teeth. How many stains? I see 3. The bitch started to panic, so I made her switch seats. Driving there, police chopper here flying there. Really not too spooked, calmly ask me, am I dying now? All I know is keep you calm and collected. Cracking jokes like, nigga, now you gon' be finally respected. See your blood leaking, got my foot on his gas. Toss the 40, we pull up to Daniel Free and see crash. You know the alibi, they start shooting, we was standing by. Ain't see nothing but the flare from the talents fly. I wasn't there, I was passing by. Matter of fact, don't say shit, I'm just gonna drop you in the back and slide. That's your weed, all the cash is mine. I take them both to the spot, plus your phone till you back online.